What is up guys, Fahan here. Welcome back to another ultimate review. And yeah, this is an ultimate review because apparently while editing this video, the sound didn't came through for the intro. So unfortunately I had to record this sort of intro lah. So anyway, this is the ultimate review of the Honda CMX500 Rebel. And the bike is currently loaned out to me by Auto Exchange lah. So do mention I love Tambak Overlanders to Hadi and the gang, and they'll give you a 15% discount off your rental lah. So yeah, let's get this review started.
Dapatkan nasihat hartana dari Tengku Syarul. Perancangannya rapi dan terperinci. Hubungilah Tengku Syarul di 9069-0187 sekarang. Biar ejen Syarul explain.
Alright guys, so this is the ultimate review of the Honda CMX500 Rebel, a cruiser style of motorcycle from Honda, almost somewhat inspired by the Harley-Davidson V-Rod. As you can see from the general outlook and design, we have this beautiful graphite black. I'm surprised that this one has the pillion seat on it. So sitting on the bike right now. Oh man, weighing at 191 kg, it's probably one of the more lighter cruisers out there lah. And also it's the right height of 69 cm. My feet is pretty much flat-footed on the ground. 11.2 litre fuel tank with a projected range of 28.5 kilometers per litre. I have to say, for a class 2, it's pretty good, but the fuel tank is pretty small. The key is traditional cruiser style or Harley style, is at the side here, just above the engine. Okay, twist the ignition, press the starter. There's a nice deep sounding growl, very reminiscent of the Harley-Davidson bikes lah, or cruiser bikes in general lah. Okay, gear 1 and we're off. So I have to say that upon riding this bike, right, the seating position is certainly weird. Okay, fits forward, my knees bend considerably, and my feet is like, it's not comfortable for me lah. Maybe because I'm certainly not used to this sort of Harley style riding position. Been riding it for long periods yesterday, and I have to say that it's quite comfortable lah. It's not really that bad. My butt doesn't ache at all, but because of my weird sitting position right now, I'm bending forward quite a bit. It takes some time to adjust lah while sitting on the seat lah. Not really too keen on the riding position though, but you can flat foot your foot on the ground, which I think this is gonna do justice to all our vertically challenged riders lah. So fun fact about this bike, it actually shares the same engine as the Honda CB500X, which in Singapore is known as 400X. It's exactly the same engine. And also the CBR 500. This is the reliable parallel twin that you'd expect lah. So if you're running a 400X, can expect like very similar performance lah, though it is the 500cc one. And I wish they changed out the engine similar to the 400X, you know, so that our class 2A riders can actually enjoy the Honda Rebel. I mean, if they can do it for the 400X, why not the Rebel, right? So I have to say that in terms of the handling, it's pretty good. It's very nimble, very agile. You don't really need much effort to corner or negotiate any bends with it. Okay, the torque is pretty decent actually, yeah. I think it's pretty typical. If you ride a 400X, it should feel really similar in that department, but not really enjoying the riding ergonomics on this. Okay, as you can see, for me, I'm lane slitting pretty much comfortably thanks to its smaller nature. And Honda actually marketed this bike as a affordable cruiser for beginner riders. It does, you know, it's kind of forgiving. Rather than right off the bat you buy a Harley, which is usually like 3 to 4 times more the cost, and the handling is also unforgiving. It's more of an advanced bike, if you ask me, like, given that I've ridden like a few Harleys before. But the Rebel 500 is really more forgiving for riders wanting a cruiser. So with that, city riding, start-stop traffic, slow traffic, if you ask me, it's more manageable, I would say, the Rebel 500. Oh, but I have to say that the suspension it's not that great. It doesn't really do too well. You can feel every bump, every road imperfection, every nut and cranny. Come on, uncle, come on, come on.
Part of the Honda Rebel series of bikes, the Honda CMX500 Rebel is a cruiser-inspired motorcycle, marketed to be beginner-friendly, particularly in Europe and the United States. The Rebel was first launched in 2017 and updated for 2020. As with the cruiser platform, the Rebel has somewhat a bobber outlook and is a simple machine by design. A blank canvas, Honda has marketed the Rebel to be highly customizable, with owners being able to easily modify the machine as he pleases. Engine is shared with the CBR 500R and the CB 500X, a 471cc liquid-cooled 4-stroke 4-valve parallel twin-cylinder DOHC with fuel injection and a 6-speed manual transmission.
Right guys, so as usual, we're gonna start off with the riding posture and position. Okay, so sitting on this bike right now, as you can see, is this typical cruiser position. Okay, feet forward, arms stretched out, kind of upright. For me, I'm not really too keen on the riding ergonomics, considering that it's a feet forward sitting position. It's this typical cruiser or Harley style sitting position. So not really too keen on this, but I think it's something that you need to get used to lah. And of course, with a ride height of 69 centimeters and completely flat-footed on the ground, this bike really makes it a breeze for vertically challenged riders to ride on this bike. Okay, so up next we'll come to the design of the Honda CMX500 Rebel. Okay, so pretty much it's cruiser style and inspired. Has a low slung bobber look to it, very much a traditional look with minimalist design. As you can see on the sides here, exposed steel tube chassis and engine. Basically not much bodywork on it, and is meant to mimic Harley Davidson V-Rod. Right, so let's talk about the handlebar controls. Okay, because there's no riding modes, not much riding tech on this Honda Rebel 500. Basically nothing much. Okay, pretty standard and straightforward as if any other motorcycle you see on the road. Okay, high beam, low beam, splash button, horn, signal indicators on the left, and to the right over here we've got an engine cutoff and starter, and also a hazard, which I really appreciate bikes coming with hazard. Handlebar is also simple and straightforward, nothing too fancy on it. Of course, if you want a monkey style handlebar, you need to modify it. So up next we go to the gauge cluster. Okay, so it's a digital gauge cluster in this round retro style design, very much LCD. There's no analog display on it. A neutral indicator, speedometer, time, odometer and fuel indicator, and below that is a cluster of warning lights. So to toggle accordingly, there's a button on the side right here to the left, and you can see your trip A, trip B, average fuel consumption, and yeah, that's it lah. And also one more thing I like to add is that the ignition or the keyhole is actually at the side over here. This typical cruiser Harley style keyhole at the side, just below the tank over here, and on the chassis. Okay, putting it in, twist, and that's it. And so this is also where you lock the handlebar in place lah. If you are used to a cruiser, definitely this will appeal to you, but for somebody like me who's used to the keyhole in the handlebars, right, this definitely is a unique feature lah. So let's talk about the riding tech on the Rebel 500. And not much, considering its purpose of being a cruiser style motorcycle for beginner riders, and very much is mechanically started in nature but there is some riding tech on it. Okay, so full LED lighting all around, my LCD gauge cluster, dual channel ABS is standard on this bike. Basically that's it. So horn check for the Honda Rebel 500. Kind of high pitch, it doesn't sound like a Harley at all. And also we got to talk about colors. So being reviewed right now is this graphite black color. We also got matte blue jeans metallic and pearl organic green. And finally, of course, you got to talk about the price. So this bike is actually available at Honda Blinsil, the official dealer for Honda bikes here in Singapore. And of course the agent model, 24,900. I presume that this is with COE. We got one listing without COE and insurance for 13,188, and also another listing for a new model, 34,177, and another listing for a used one for 18,800 lah. COE is until 2030. I think if you ask me, with the current prices right now, it's kind of reasonable.
And of course, when you're riding fast, you know, because there's no windshield in front of you, when you're riding fast, you're feeling the full force of the wind. But I think there is like aftermarket windshield. Now this bike comes with dual channel ABS. Okay, brakes are pretty good. 2 rotors, one in front, one in the rear, with Nissin brake calipers. Comes with dual channel ABS, so really helps with the safety aspect lah. The bike is not gonna lock up in case of a emergency brake or what. But even though it's a cruiser, if you ask me about the performance wise, even though it looks like a cruiser, it certainly doesn't feel like a cruiser. The engine doesn't have that thumping, signature thumping that cruisers would usually have. But it has some sort of rumble, you know, that you can feel on your ass right now. But the thumping, not so much lah, if you ask me. Because maybe the engine, the parallel twin engine, is not adapted for cruiser use. I mean, cruiser bikes, Harley Davidson notably, you know, they make it a point for the bike to have this typical cruiser characteristics that you'd expect lah, but not with the Rebel 500. But if you're looking for something like cruiser looking, you know, you can consider the Rebel. I'll have to say that it's a really pleasant ride lah right now. But I think cruiser enthusiasts wouldn't appreciate the bike's riding characteristics lah. So as I said, you know, city riding, no issue at all. Stop traffic, no issue. It's really a forgiving bike for a cruiser in its class. And now we gotta go into the highway and see how she performs. But I will say this lah, if like you're into cruisers but you're not a fan of them being big cumbersome machines that are expensive and difficult to handle with, you can consider the Rebel 500, as it is much more forgiving for new class 2 riders lah. In the clutch, it's not as heavy as a Harley, you know. I mean, right now in city traffic, like if you're riding for long periods and you're putting in the clutch, pulling in the clutch consistently, your right hand is gonna cramp up pretty easily. I think in Singapore, I'm not too sure about the population of this bike, but in my personal opinion, I rarely see this bike, you know, on the city streets. Like maybe once in a blue moon I will see a Rebel. Maybe it has to do with the CC, because class 2 riders, when they want to get a class 2 bike, they will really tend to max out the CC. So riders usually go something like above 700. But I must say that after riding it for a while, you can feel the heat of the engine on your legs right now, on your inner thighs, your inseam, your buttocks. I think because, I don't know, maybe because the airflow in the engine is kind of bad and there's no flarings to cover it, you know, like the CB400X has flarings to redirect engine temperature away from the rider's legs. This one is fully exposed, so the engine heat is really unforgiving on the Rebel. I have to say that, you know, currently I'm in 80 or 90 plus right now, and at this speed it gets kind of sluggish. Compared to the CB400X, the top speed on this bike is kind of sluggish. but you can whack it if you want to lah. So I think highway riding pretty good. It's maintained speed very well. Definitely can go above 90, but the acceleration is kind of sluggish at this point compared to the 400X. Maybe it's because the wind resistance on this is pretty bad, given its design, you know. It doesn't cut through the wind pretty well. And of course at this speed, without a windshield in front of you, you can feel the full force of the wind on your face and body. So handling wise, no issue on highway riding. I think fast swooping corners like this, it's able to take on the highways pretty well. If you ask me, would I rather get a Harley or this? Well, if you have the money, by all means, get the original. Get a Harley. But if you want something more reliable, something more affordable, something that is more forgiving, you can consider the Rebel. And I got to know that this bike is actually very popular in Europe and the US. Riders wanting a cruiser that is more forgiving would consider a Rebel. Okay lah guys, so I think that's it for the riding review. I'm gonna give you guys my final thoughts and conclusions on the Honda Rebel, and see you in a bit.
Right, so as you can see, it's a hot day outside, and which is why I'm here. So apologies if the lighting is kind of bad, but we do our best lah. Here's my final thoughts and conclusions of the Honda Rebel. So basically, this bike itself is targeted at mostly the American market. It's meant to provide beginner riders an affordable alternative at a bobber style cruiser. Here in Singapore, however, it's not really a popular bike. It's very rarely seen on the streets, probably due to its engine capacity at 500cc. And class 2 riders, they want to max out the cc of the bikes that they get lah, considering that they really worked hard to get the class 2 license. They wouldn't want to settle for a 500cc. And also, not only that, it's really out of reach to class 2A riders as well. And because of its rarity, there's limited customizations you can do on it lah. I think there are aftermarket parts on hand, and also overseas, you can bring it to Singapore, but then I think it's gonna cost a bomb. And because of its rarity, dealers and bike shops, they don't really bring in aftermarket accessories for the Honda Rebel lah. But there is still aftermarket accessories, it's just not much of it lah. And my personal opinion, the Rebel 500 is certainly for riders who want a cruiser with a proven reliability of a Honda. I mean, this same engine is also available on the CB400X, and it's really a bulletproof engine. And also great and easy handling, is best for beginner class 2 riders, and also it's a head turner on the streets given its rarity lah. Once again, huge thanks to Auto Exchange for loaning me this bike for the review. You can check out this bike and also a whole range of bikes that they have, including the Honda Super Cup, XADV, and other models. I just check with them lah. And yeah, that's it for the vlog, and we will see you guys in the next one.